Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones we should fear the most. Picture an old, wrinkled farm woman tending her chickens, her hands rough from years of work, her back slightly bent with age. She looks harmless, weak even. But what if I told you that behind those tired eyes lies the soul of a warrior, a sniper whose aim once changed the course of wars? Tonight, when a group of bullies raid her ranch, thinking she's nothing but an easy target, they are about to learn a lesson they'll never forget. Stay with me until the end, because this story will show you that real strength never fades. It only waits for the moment it's needed most. Out in the quiet countryside lived Margaret Holt, known to the townsfolk simply as Grandma Maggie. Her ranch stretched across open fields, dotted with barns, a horse stable, and a porch swing that creaked under the evening wind. To most who passed by, she was just an elderly widow, living out her days raising chickens and tending to her small farm. She wore faded overalls, a wide-brimmed hat, and her hands carried the dirt of the land she loved. But beneath that gentle exterior, Margaret carried a past she never spoke of. Decades earlier, she had served in the military, a sniper in an elite special forces unit. Her aim was legendary, her patience unmatched. She had seen wars up close, taken shots no one else dared, and protected countless lives from the shadows. Yet, when she came back, she chose silence. She wanted peace, not medals. The only people who knew the truth were buried alongside her comrades. In town, trouble had been brewing. A gang of reckless bullies, teenagers who believed their size and numbers gave them power, had been stirring chaos. They vandalized cars, spray-painted buildings, and recently set their eyes on the isolated ranch at the edge of town. To them, Grandma Maggie was nothing but an old woman with no one to protect her. They thought her land, her animals, and even her house were free for the taking. One hot summer night they came. The rumble of engines broke the silence as trucks and motorbikes tore across Maggie's field. Headlights cut through the dark, and the sound of loud music echoed across the land. The bullies laughed, hollered, and smashed bottles against her fence posts. They thought it was a game. They thought she was asleep inside, too frail to stop them. But Maggie was awake, sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of tea. She watched the lights approach through the window. Her hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from memory. She walked to a wooden chest tucked away in the corner of the room, one she hadn't opened in years. Slowly, she lifted the lid, revealing a carefully wrapped rifle, still polished, still deadly. Alongside it lay her medals, each one a story she never told. Her voice was steady as she whispered, "Not tonight, boys. Not my land." As the bullies broke down her gate and stormed onto the property, Maggie's eyes hardened. The woman they thought was weak was gone. In her place stood the sniper, the protector, reborn. The gang spread across the ranch, stomping through the barn, kicking over feed buckets, and scaring the horses. One of them hurled a rock through her window, laughing at the sound of shattering glass. Another sprayed graffiti across her barn door. They thought they owned the night, but then a single shot rang out, not into flesh, not into bone, but into the metal weather vane above their heads. The sharp clang silenced the laughter. The boys froze, wide-eyed, as the sound echoed across the field. "Who's out there?" one of them shouted nervously. From the shadows of the porch, a voice answered, calm, steady, unshaken. "You've made a mistake coming here." The gang tried to laugh it off, but inside, unease was spreading. They scanned the darkness, but they couldn't see her. Maggie was already in position, her rifle cradled in her arms, her breathing slow and even. To her, this wasn't chaos. This was control. One by one, she picked her targets, not to hurt them, but to frighten them into remembering. A shot blasted the tire of a dirt bike, sending it hissing flat. Another bullet struck the hat off a boy's head, the fabric spinning into the dirt. A third hit the padlock on the barn door, sending sparks flying just inches from their feet. Every shot was precise, surgical. The gang panicked, stumbling over each other, shouting into the night. They fired back blindly with slingshots and air rifles, their so-called weapons pathetic compared to her skill. And then silence fell again. From behind them, Maggie stepped forward, rifle slung across her shoulder, her silhouette lit by the moon. She didn't look like an old woman anymore. She looked like the legend she once was, tall, unyielding, eyes burning with quiet authority. "You think age makes me weak," she said, her voice carrying across the trembling field. "I've stared down men twice your size and outlasted storms you can't imagine. This land is mine. My blood, my sweat, my years are in this soil. and I will protect it with everything I've got." The bullies, once bold and laughing, now stood pale and speechless. Their bravado melted under the weight of her presence. One of them whispered, "She's crazy." Another muttered, "No, she's dangerous." Finally, Derek, the leader, dropped the crowbar in his hand. It clattered onto the dirt. His voice shook as he said, "We were sorry, ma'am. We didn't know." Maggie lowered her rifle but never her eyes. "You didn't care to know. Now you will." One by one the gang retreated, their engines roaring as they sped away, leaving behind a ranch they would never dare approach again. Maggie stood on her porch long after the noise faded, the night returning to its quiet calm. She placed the rifle back in its case, closed the chest, and whispered to herself, "Still got it." As dawn broke over the fields, the farm animals stirred, and the light of a new day fell on a woman who had once again proven that true strength doesn't fade with age. It waits silent and steady for the moment it's needed most. So remember this, never underestimate the quiet ones, the elderly, the forgotten. Behind their silence may live a lifetime of battles, victories, and strength that no bully can break. The bullies thought they raided an old farm woman, but what they found was a warrior who never forgot how to fight.